Welcome to the Fearless Health Podcast with host Dr. Anne-Marie Barter.
Catherine, thank you so much for joining us. I am so excited today to talk about algae. I'm so passionate about this in my practice. It flies out the door like nobody's business. And so I would love to hear all of the ins and outs. But first, I'd really like to know how you got into doing what you're doing now.
Sure. Catherine, my name is Catharine Arnston, and I'm the founder and CEO of EnergyBits, and we're an algae tablet company based in Boston, Massachusetts, and we don't grow the algae here, just in case anybody was curious. We grow it in Taiwan. And I've lived here 30 years. And it is amazing that I still can't believe, I pinch myself that I've become the algae expert in America, because it's certainly not, you don't wake up one day and go, oh, I want to sell algae. You know, it's usually you want to be a doctor or a dentist or something. So I had a corporate career of 30 years. I was actually also a publisher of an interior design magazine. So nothing to do with nutrition though. And then 12 years ago, my younger sister in Canada, because I am Canadian, developed breast cancer. And her oncologist, God bless her, told her that, because she was going to go through chemo, that she needed to change her diet to an alkaline diet because it would help with her healing. Now, they didn't tell her what an alkaline diet was or why it was good for her healing. So she called me. Of course, I'm going to help her because I love my sister and, you know, it's my baby sister. And I'm also just a really good researcher. So I said, I have no idea what an alkaline diet is. And remember, this is 12 years ago. This is all still relatively under the radar. So I said, we'll find out and I will help you. We'll make this happen. So it turned out that an alkaline diet was primarily a diet based on plants, because plants, you know, salads and vegetables, have phytonutrients and chlorophyll that build your immune system and that are alkaline. It was also eliminating acidic foods like sugar and dairy and that sort of stuff. So she did go through her chemo. She did change her diet completely. That was like almost 12 years ago, and she's still cancer-free. So that's one good piece of news, excellent news. And in the process of helping her, I started reading about alkaline diets, which led me to plant-based diets. And the science was all there, but, you know, 12 years ago, nobody was talking about plant-based nutrition like they are now. Now it's mainstream. So 12 years ago, I thought, man, this is powerful information, all evidence-based. Somebody should tell America about it. But I had no nutrition background. I had no idea how I would do it, but I thought, okay, I'll give it a shot. Don't know how or where or why, but I'll give it a try. I quickly got I realized I needed some sort of education, so I got a certification in health coaching from a place called the Institute for Integrative Nutrition in New York City. So I graduated in July 2009. And it's like, okay, now what? So I put a curriculum together teaching people how to incorporate plant-based nutrition into their diets. And I gave this workshop for free at corporations, hospitals, basically anybody would let me talk to them. And I had an epiphany. Two epiphanies. One is that everybody knows they should eat more plants. Everybody knows they should eat more vegetables, but it's either too much work to carry it home from the grocery store, or it's too much work to clean and cook them, or their kids won't eat them, or their husbands won't eat them. So I thought, okay, how can I get people healthy with plants if I can't get them to eat them? So that back to the drawing board, I got to find something that's fast, easy, simple, maybe doesn't taste green. And I just started researching things, and I went back to the algae, which was one of many things I'd found for my sister. And I thought, well, I'm going to check this stuff out. And it was like Alice in Wonderland falling down the rabbit hole, because as I started researching algae, I found out, first of all, it's the most alkaline food in the world, box checked. It's the most nutrient-dense food in the world, box checked. Has the highest concentration of chlorophyll in the world, the highest concentration of protein in the world, is endorsed by the international agencies like the United Nations, who in 1970s said it was the answer to world hunger, box checked. NASA feeds it to the astronauts and says it has 1,000 times more nutrition than anything else in the world. It's been used for 50 years in Asia, where it's a multi-billion-dollar agricultural crop. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, algae is food. It's not a supplement. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. So I feel comfortable talking about food, not supplements. And because it's been used for 50 years, it's clearly got some kind of traction. It's safe. There's never been a single illness or death from algae in 50 years. Like, what medical company can say that, right? So I thought, my gosh, this stuff it works. Yeah, and we're going to talk about what it does for you, because it gives you energy, builds your immune system, helps with your beauty, it helps with everything. It's been used safely. It's grown carefully, at least ours is. It's endorsed by international agencies. If you swallow it in tablet form, like we have it, you don't even taste the green, and yet you get all the chlorophyll. It has 200 times more chlorophyll than spinach, and even 25 times more chlorophyll than liquid chlorophyll. So it meets every requirement that you need to be healthy, energized, have great skin, longevity, great digestion, great sleep, everything. The only problem with algae, it seemed, was, well, two things. Nobody knew about it in America. That was number one. Two, and related to that, is no one has ever educated Americans about what it is and why it works so well. And three, the quality, quite honestly, has been mostly very poor because it came mostly from China. So I thought, okay, because this stuff is a rock star nutritionally, I'm going to devote my life to getting algae into the mainstream. And that was 10, 11 years ago. And here I am. Since then, I've been on Shark Tank. We've redesigned the website, 20 times. We've redesigned the packaging, the branding. I've been on hundreds of podcasts. And finally, people are starting to wake up and listen to me, and because the science is there. And I look forward to sharing some of that with your community, because if you do nothing else but add algae to your daily routine, you will see unbelievable changes in your health, your skin, your digestion, your sleep, your immunity. And it's as close to a miracle as you're ever going to get. And by the way, algae was the first life on Earth 4 billion years ago. So it predates us by 3.8 billion years. So it's been around a long time. So it's not new. I just tell people algae is not new. It's just new to you. So that's my story.
That's awesome. So what is algae, and what are the different types of algae that are generally used?
Yes. Oh, great question. And I finally figured out an easy way to describe it for people, because it is very confusing. So algae is its own food group. You have fruits and you have vegetables. Those are food groups. Algae is its own food group because it's not a plant. It's kind of pseudo a plant, but it's, if anything, it would be called a sea vegetable, but it's not technically a vegetable either. So it's its own food category. And it breaks into two main subcategories. And just like with, let's say, take fruits, for example, fruits would divide into things like bananas and apples and whatever. So same with algae. The two main types of algae are macroalgae. That's seaweed, dulse, kelp. That's all macroalgae. The other main category is what's called microalgae, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Microalgae is the one that's 1,000 times more nutrient dense than anything else in the world. So now that you understand there's macro and micro, within the microalgae, the reason why it's called microalgae is because it's so microscopically small you can't see it. And it breaks into two subcategories, blue-green and green. Now, there are tens of thousands of types of blue, green, and green algae growing everywhere in the world. This is what the whales eat. This is what the fish eat. Algae grows, this green and blue-green grows in lakes, oceans, swimming pools, the earth. It's everywhere. And actually, algae provides 80% of the oxygen on Earth, and we can talk about that later on as well. So you have these blue, green, and green. And the reason I mention this to you, because we're going to talk about one type of blue, green, and one type of green, is that some people may go on the internet and they'll be worried because they'll read about toxic algae. Yes, it's toxic to humans if it comes from any place other than a cultivated farm, like what we do. If it comes from the ocean, if it comes from the lake. So don't stick your head in your swimming pool and suck back any algae that's growing there, because that will make you sick. So anytime there's any of those algae blooms, those are things that are, it's algae growing wild. You do not want algae growing wild because it's toxic and it absorbs whatever toxins are in the water around it. So the only ones you want to eat are one of the blue-green algae, which is spirulina, and the other one, which is a green algae, is chlorella. Now, chlorella is called chlorella because it has the highest concentration of chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a pigment. It's a green pigment, it's an antioxidant, and we're going to talk about some of the healing properties of chlorophyll. And chlorella has as I said, the highest concentration of chlorophyll in the world. The other algae we're going to talk about is spirulina, which is a blue-green algae. And the reason why it's called a blue-green algae is because unlike chlorella, which has just the green pigment, chlorophyll, spirulina has two pigments. It has chlorophyll, which is the green one, but it has a second pigment that's called phycocyanin. It's a blue pigment. Don't worry about how to spell it. Just know that it's a blue pigment. And this blue pigment exists nowhere else in nature. And it has amazing healing properties. And we're going to talk a little bit about it because one of the healing properties it provides is it stops viruses like COVID-10 from getting into your cells, but that's later in the podcast. So just so that you know, again, algae is a food group. It breaks into macroalgae and microalgae. Macroalgae is the seaweed stuff, lots of fiber, not much nutrition. Microalgae is your blue, green, and green, and we're going to talk about spirulina being the blue-green and chlorella the green. Now, one of the first things I want to talk about before we dig into the two separate things is that I want to show you, I don't know if you can see this picture, but this is an example of an algae farm. So these farms are about 5 times the size of football stadiums. These are not small farms. They're enormous. And so remember that I said algae is as big as the beef industry? I'm not kidding. It's enormous. And so, and it's grown in China, Japan, India, we grow ours in Taiwan. And every country, even though it's grown in water, has different qualities and different standards. I selected Taiwan because it has the highest standards. You do not want to get algae that comes from China because the quality is very, very questionable. They don't monitor the water. They use lower strains of algae. Most companies that grow their algae, spirulina and chlorella in China are what I call high volume, low priced algae. So this is stuff you'll find at Target and Walmart and very often they use the lower strains of algae which has less nutrition, and they put binders in it or they ground up rocks so it makes it look like you're getting more. We don't do any of that. We just grow ours in triple filtered spring mountain water and we test it daily, and it's amazing how clean it is. So algae is a food crop. It's an agricultural crop, no different than spinach or kale or broccoli, except for the fact that it has 1,000 times more nutrient density. So the two algae I want to talk about are spirulina and chlorella. So spirulina, which is the blue-green algae, what it does is it has the highest concentration of protein in the world. And that's why the United Nations in 1974 had a global conference on spirulina algae, and you can Google this and get the results from it, because most food deficiencies are based on protein shortages. And spirulina has 3 times the amount of protein as steak or any animal protein. Ours is 64% protein. Your typical steak or chicken is about 22%. So it's triple the amount of protein in such a concentrated form. And even better, all that protein is already in amino acid form. Anybody who knows anything about nutrition knows that when you take protein, animal protein, your body can't absorb it as protein. It has to break it down into amino acids before it can be absorbed. And that can take up to 3 days, and you end up with 10% of it being absorbed as aminos. With algae, especially spirulina, the protein's already in amino acid form, so there's no work for your body to break down. And even better, spirulina is technically considered a bacteria. It has no cellulose wall. And the reason why that's important is because all those amino acids and all the other 40 nutrients that we'll talk a little bit about it, get absorbed into your body again instantly, because there's no work for your body to get access to the nutrition. That's why when we first started many years ago, we were actually a sports nutrition company, because the runners, the ultra runners, the triathletes, they've discovered us and they found out that it gave them steady energy, not just physically, but mentally. And when you're doing workouts, one of the first things that go, especially when you're an endurance athlete, is your focus. And it's very hard to keep going. So they were stunned to find out that this kept their focus. It gave them steady energy, and it did not upset their stomach. Anybody who does any extensive exercise knows that those gels and bars, when you're out exercising, because they're carb and sugar based, they irritate your stomach lining. And so all the athletes were getting, gas and diarrhea, and none of that happened with the algae because it gets so absorbed so quickly. And of course, there's no sugar, caffeine, or chemicals. So I mention that because it's the safest, purest food in the world. So high in protein, very high in iron. And iron is what carries oxygen in your blood. And we're going to talk about that later when we talk about COVID. It's also a vasodilator. That means it opens up your blood vessels. It stimulates your body to release nitric oxide. And when that happens, your blood vessels open up, which leads the blood to flow quicker, bring nutrients to your brain and your body. It has a very high amount of essential fatty acids. People buy a lot of fish oil, or they eat fish because of the omega-3. And I'd say, well, where do you think the fish get the omega-3 from? They get it from algae. So it's much better for you and much safer. And it's also a vegan source, and it's a sustainable source to get your omega-3 from the algae, because that's where the fish get anyways. And when you buy it from a company like ours, where it's grown carefully and sustainably and cleanly, then there's no contamination, and most fish oil goes rancid after about 30 days. So because spirulina gives you so much energy, mentally, physically, satisfies your hunger, we call ours EnergyBits. We actually, we have two brands, because the original one is, we call it EnergyBits because we thought that was easier to say than spirulina. But we also found out that it builds your skin and hair health because it has so much protein, high antioxidants, and we found women didn't like the blue packaging of the EnergyBits, so I designed a pink one and called it BeautyBits. It's exactly the same, but we find that women are more attracted to it. Quite honestly, I am too, because I'm a girl and I like pink stuff. So, so BeautyBits and EnergyBits are both spirulina. They're absolutely identical. We're not trying to trick anybody. But I just wanted women, particularly, because I started this because of my sister, to feel comfortable taking our spirulina. And if they didn't like the blue packaging, I was quite happy to create a pink one for them. So, and because it does build your skin and hair health. So spirulina, it's been known for decades for this energizing nutrient, high nutrient density, high protein. They've been using it. It's been used for probably 2 centuries. So it's really remarkable food. And when you grow it as carefully as we do, it's probably the safest, purest, most nutrient-dense food you'll ever put in your body. So that's spirulina, blue-green algae, great for energy, focus. People love it for intermittent fasting because it's ketogenic as well. So it doesn't reduce your ketones or increase your glucose. So you can stay focused and not be hungry while you're doing your intermittent fasting. I have it for breakfast. You can swallow them, pop them in smoothies, carry them with you everywhere like I do. So it's really amazing food. And like I said, it's a food, it's not a supplement. So then the other algae is chlorella. Now, again, I mentioned it's called chlorella because it has the highest concentration of chlorophyll in the world. And, your mothers and other people have always told you to eat greens, and people do, cleanses, and they eat lots of juices. And I always used to wonder, well, what exactly does cleansing mean? And what cleansing are the greens doing? Well, I finally figured out what cleansing is. And I'm going to show you a couple things. First of all, this is a picture that shows you the chemical composition of your blood and the chemical composition of chlorophyll. They're absolutely identical. The only difference...
Looked it up. There you go. Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
They're absolutely identical. The only difference is the chlorophyll has a magnesium atom in the middle, and your hemoglobin, the red blood cell, has iron. That's what carries oxygen. But first of all, I tell people that's got to be a tip-off. If these two are identical, Mother Nature is not stupid. There's got to be a reason why they are so similar. And it's because chlorophyll builds your blood. Chlorophyll builds your immune system. Chlorophyll builds your longevity, builds everything. And during World War II, when they would run out of blood for transfusions for the injured, they used to give them liquid chlorophyll because they found out the patient would heal just as fast as if they'd had a blood transfusion. And that's why, because it builds your blood, and because of the all the nutrients that are in there. So it's pretty crazy stuff.
And it was just liquid chlorophyll through the mouth. That was it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they also used it topically because it kills bacteria. And there's, again, research on this, and I can send you some articles. I mean,
right.
This is amazing. But I tell people, why would you take liquid chlorophyll when you could have chlorella? Because in addition to the highest concentration of chlorophyll, you also get 40 vitamins and minerals. You also get 60% protein. You also get vitamin K2, which we'll talk about. So there's lots of other benefits to chlorella, in addition to having the highest concentration of chlorophyll. But chlorophyll has been well documented for its very amazing health properties. And the other cool thing about chlorophyll is only about 10% of it gets absorbed in your stomach. The rest of it travels through your liver. And of course, your liver is what is the key organ for pulling out toxins. So you want it to be healthy. So the chlorophyll moves through your liver, helps clean that. It helps your lower intestine, and of course chlorella pulls out toxins, which we'll talk about in a second. So chlorophyll is amazing for building your immune system, and also it's the most alkaline food in the world.
What have you guys seen with COVID-19 with it, with the immune system piece?
Do you want to jump in?
Sure.
Yeah, just finish chlorella and then we'll switch
right
over to that. Yeah. So chlorella has the highest concentration of chlorophyll in the world, very cleansing. And the other cool thing about chlorella, remember I said spirulina has no cellulose wall? Well, chlorella has the hardest cellulose wall. And the reason why that's important is because that hard cell wall attaches to toxins and chelates them, pulls them out. It pulls out iron, lead, radiation. It also pulls out alcohol. Athletes use it because it pulls out lactic acid. It's after the Fukushima disaster, 8 years ago, the entire global supply of chlorella was bought up within 24 hours because in Asia, they know it's the only thing that pulls out radiation. They've used it at Hiroshima. They used it at Chernobyl. So chlorella pulls out toxins. So many of our illnesses are because there's so many toxins in our bodies, and you've got to get those out. So not only is chlorella cleansing because of the chlorophyll, it also pulls out toxins. It'll pull them out of your blood in an hour and a half. It pulls them out of your cells in about 10 days. It pulls them out. It takes about 2 to 5 months or longer to pull them out of your organs, because we're going into levels of density of your cells. The more dense your cells are, the longer it pulls out. So chlorella is a wellness algae. It's cleansing because of the chlorophyll. It pulls out toxins. It also has the highest concentration of RNA and DNA in the world, which helps as you age, because your RNA and DNA gets damaged and grows back damaged. It has your daily requirement of vitamin K2, which moves excess calcium out of soft tissue like your blood vessels. They're realizing heart disease, 50% of heart disease is because of calcification of your blood vessels. That's what arteriosclerosis is the hardening of your arteries. Well, guess what's hardening? It's calcium that's hardening it. So we are all short of vitamin K2, and K2, and daily requirement is in your chlorella, moves calcium out of those places like your blood vessels, your brain, your organs, your skin, and puts it safely in your bones where it should be. So we call our chlorella recovery bits because it helps you recover your health, recover from your day, recover from your sports. And there's so much more I could tell you about chlorella, but so they do completely different things. Spirulina, the blue-green algae, very energizing, great for hungers, great for intermittent fasting, sports, focus. And then chlorella is a wellness, healing, detoxing, cleansing, build your immune system algae. So you can see they do completely different things. That's why generally we say, well, take your spirulina in the morning, in the afternoon, anytime you're hungry or fatigued. You can take as few as 3 or 4 tablets, or as many as you want. 30. We have NHL players who put 75 in their smoothie before a game of spirulina, and they put another 75 in their smoothie of chlorella after the game to pull out the lactic acid. I have at least 100 a day myself. So there is no upper limit, because I tell people, well, is there too much, can you have too much salad? Because remember, it's a vegetable. And so we do provide dosage suggestions, but it's whatever. If you think you only want to take one and you get energy and hunger satisfied with one, oh, by the way, there's only 1 calorie per tablet. So you could take 5 and have your hunger dissipate for an hour or two for 5 calories. So it's crazy what this stuff does. And it's all science-based, nutritionally dense, nothing added to it, straight Mother Nature's, it's her recipe. We just grow it carefully and explain it to people. And we also, by the way, do third-party lab tests. So everyone, that's why we work. We don't sell through retailers. We only sell on our website and through doctors nationwide, chiropractors, functional medicine, nutritionists, because the quality is so high, and we provide the third-party lab tests, and we also provide all the science. And just while we're talking about the 2 algae, if you don't want to buy them separately, we do have another brand called EnergyBits, which is a blend of the 2. So it's 50% spirulina, 50% chlorella. I personally could not live without them. I've long days. I've been doing 16-hour days for 7 days a week, almost over 10 years. And if I did not have this, there's not a chance I would have been able to do this. Not a chance. So, and people notice right away, the EnergyBits, the spirulina, within 15 minutes. Now, I'll just let you know, you won't feel like you've got a lightning bolt. It's not a stimulant like caffeine or sugar. The way you will feel from the spirulina is, the best way to describe it is, you will feel fresh. You'll just feel like you had a great night's sleep, or a nice quick, brisk walk in the cold. You'll just feel alert and ready. That's it. Just alert and ready. Nothing more crazy than that. So there's no wild stimulation. Some people even take it to help them go to sleep, because it doesn't cause energy. It just eliminates fatigue, mental and physical. And with the spirulina, that one you won't notice quite as much, except you'll notice that after you do a workout, your muscles won't be sore the next day. Or if you take it after you drink alcohol, you won't have a hangover. You'll be sober an hour and a half. And if you take it every day, you'll notice that you aren't getting colds, you aren't getting sick, your skin will clear up. Everything, just your digestion will be better, your elimination will be better. Everything's just moves and grooves a lot better. So, but it does take a little. It's not as evident as the spirulina is, which is a very short-term kind of thing. So, but yeah. So now you want to talk about the immune thing.
Yeah, let's definitely go into that, especially with the blood building and what you were talking about with the oxygen carrying capacity.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's jump in, because I think COVID is on a lot of people's minds, and what to do to boost our immune system through this time. I get a lot of questions about that. So if you wouldn't mind going into that, I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah. Well, we were getting a lot of questions too. So I'm also the chief scientific officer. So I do all the research and I write all the papers. And there are a couple on our website that you can read that are pretty deep. Because what I found is, first I had to explain to people what their immune system is in order for them to understand why the algae is so good for it. So if you'll indulge me, for those who are listening, because maybe you are as confused as I was, and many people are, your immune system is what I call your first defense. And I broke it, I created sort of my own definitions. I called it your visible immune system and your invisible. Now, your visible immune system are things like your skin, because that is your, barrier between you and the earth or the world. Your mucosal systems, like your mouth, your nose, your lungs, your stomach lining. So you can pretty much understand what those are, and you can see them if you see a body description, you can see them. So they're very important. But there's what I feel is the more important part of your immune system, which I call your invisible immune system. And these are the cells that your body creates to defend you, to protect you when there's been an invader, a pathogen, a bacteria, a virus, anything that shouldn't be there. Your immune system is so intelligent, but it needs to use these these cell structures to identify what it is, get rid of it if it can, kill it if it has entered your cells, and then it remembers what it was, so that if it happens again, it can be much more efficient. So here's the key about your immune system. So these cells that it creates are things like killer cells, B cells, white blood cells, macrophages. Now, you don't necessarily need to know all these terms, but if you are interested, it's all on our website in a paper that I wrote, and I can email it to you as well so that you can put it on your show notes.
Sure.
But the key thing, there's two key things for you to remember. Your body cannot make these cells to defend you if it doesn't have the proper nutrients. And that is why 80% of your immune system is in your gut. Because guess where your immune system gets the nutrients to make these defense cells for you? From what you eat. And so if you are not giving your body what it needs to make these cells to defend you, it cannot defend you. That is why the people that are, dying from COVID tend to be elderly, who of course have very poor eating habits and are eating mush, or they have a previous condition, very often diabetes, they're obese. I can assure you that they're not eating the proper nutrition either. And by the way, if they have a pre-existing condition, their immune system is already pretty active, trying to support them and keep them alive from that. So it doesn't have much ammunition left to defend it from something like COVID-19. And I found a really easy way to help people to understand this. And here's the analogy. If you are going to have a dinner party and you want to have a wonderful meal for your friends to come over, what do you have to do? Well, you have to go grocery shopping. You have to get the ingredients to cook that meal, whether it's the appetizer, the entree, whatever it is. You have to go and get it to create it, or you don't have a dinner party. Your body is the same way. If your immune system, which is the dinner party, doesn't have the nutrients that you're giving it by eating the right food, it cannot support you. And the nutrients that it needs are all in the algae. This is why it's so amazing. So it's vitamin A, it's zinc, it's essential fatty acids, it's amino acids, it's E, there's a long list, and again, I put it together. So if you're concerned about protecting your health, and we all are right now, the most important thing is to build your immune system so it can defend you. It's like you can't go to war without soldiers. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And or if you don't arm your soldiers with clothing and they're standing by, but they can't do anything. It's like a Monty Python movie, right? So that's the general thing. The reason why algae is so valuable for your immune support is because it has all those nutrients in there. So you don't have to go find all these different things. And by the way, most supplements do not get absorbed by your body because they're made from extracts, and extracts do not exist in nature. And they're also made in manufacturing plants, which means there's high heat, which means they're composed of fabricated ingredients. And algae is a food. So it comes with all the enzymes and coenzymes and factors and cofactors, the things that your body can recognize. The way I describe it is like, it's the difference between going to work with your clothes on or just going with just your shoes on. When you take supplements, like here's an example, is vitamin C. Almost all vitamin C is basically ascorbic acid. But if you go online or check it, you'll find out there's actually over 200 components to vitamin C, of which ascorbic acid is one. So when you're only getting ascorbic acid, your body's going, well, where's the rest of the stuff? Like, I don't know what to do with this. It's crazy. So when you get your nutrition from food, and algae is a food, it has all those hidden, nuanced nutrients that allow better absorption, better use of the nutrients. And another great analogy is the difference between when you take a supplement, it's like listening to a third grade soloist, or when you take something that's nutrient dense like algae, it's like listening to a full orchestra. There's it's professional, and B, there's harmonies that you just can't get when you take things in isolation. So that's the general overview on the immune system. But there's some very specific things, as you asked me, like what science has there been related to COVID-19. So there's been some really exciting research in Asia, where of course algae is normal there, just like donuts are normal here.
Well said.
I live in Boston, and Dunkin' Donuts is a billion-dollar company, and they're based here. And we see Dunkin' Donuts trucks going by all the time. But in Asia, it's quite normal for them to see transport trucks carrying algae. So anyway, so a lot more research in algae in Asia. And speaking of which, there are 100,000 studies about algae. Algae is the most researched food, bar none, in the entire universe. But the science about it has not leaked out of the scientific community into the consumer or practitioner world. I'm probably the first person to help share some of that stuff. So anyways, back to Asia. So they found out that spirulina, that phycocyanin, that blue pigment that I mentioned, has this interesting ability to stop the virus from entering your cells. And the way it does this is, if you've seen pictures of the COVID virus, you'll see that it's circular and it has these protrusions that stick out. Those protrusions, what they do is they identify what's called receptor cells on your cell, so they can connect with your cell, because a virus, the COVID virus, is just a string of RNA, which means it cannot duplicate itself. It needs to find a living cell's DNA to replicate, to duplicate itself. So what it does, it goes into your body. Think of it like a moon landing. You know, moon landings, they have these legs that stick out and they land on the moon safely. So the COVID-19 has these protrusions that look around on your cells to see where it can land, so they can penetrate your cell wall and scoop up, basically, captivate your DNA and use it. So the spirulina, this blue pigment, seems to, what it does is it identifies the what's called the receptor cell, so it covers it, and so the virus can't connect with your cell. I live in Boston, where parking is at a premium. So the way the analogy I came up with is, if you have your own parking spot on the street and somebody else has taken it, you can't park there because they've stolen your spot. So I'm sort of making the analogy. Well, think of the spirulina as, it's stolen the parking spot on the cell, so that the COVID protrusion can't identify a place to land, and so your body just washes it out. So it's one of the ways that it helps prevent the virus from entering your cells. Now, your body, as I mentioned, has different ways when it defends you with these cells. There's two basic ways. One is it creates what's called antibodies that prevent the virus from entering. And so, but because COVID-19 is brand new, none of us have the antibodies, and that's why they're racing to try to find a virus or a vaccine that would behave like an antibody. So what the spirulina seems to be doing is behaving almost like an antibody. But if that hasn't stopped, so if that didn't work, and the virus has entered your cell wall, now it's duplicating itself. It uses your DNA and fills up the cell with its own DNA, and then it bursts, and then it gets moved along. Well, then your cells have your immune system has other techniques to kill the virus that once it's inside your cell. And that's when it needs this strong immune factor, of which algae has all the nutrients it needs to do that. So there's those two things. But here's the third amazing thing about algae and COVID. So people are dying. What happens is it's a respiratory virus. So it attacks your lungs. And so two things happen. Well, it attacks your lungs, that's number one. But what it also does, it attacks your hemoglobin. And what it does is it goes into your blood and takes over, kicks out the iron atom. Remember, iron carries oxygen. So the COVID virus kicks out the iron atom in your hemoglobin and replaces itself with the iron atom. Now, your blood cannot carry oxygen. This means that your entire body, all of your vital organs, particularly your heart, become oxygen deprived. This is why people, when they die, it's primarily from a heart attack, because the heart is a very premium, your premium organ, and it can't survive without oxygen. So that's number one. Number two, when it replaces itself, takes your iron atom out and replaces itself, that iron atom doesn't disappear. What happens is it is now still in your blood, but it is not safely contained within your hemoglobin. Think of Superman. He had kryptonite. If it was exposed, he would die. So the iron atom is very necessary to your life because it carries oxygen in your blood. But it's protected by being inside your hemoglobin. And so when it gets kicked out and it's no longer protected, it's still around, but now it is a corrosive, acidic, damaging atom. And so what happens is it gets into your lungs, and that's causing corrosion and damage to your lungs. So now while your body's being denied oxygen because there's no longer an iron atom in there, the iron and your lungs are collapsing because they're becoming so damaged from this corrosive, freewheeling, crazy iron atom. The two combined are devastating and damaging and cause the loss of life. Now, the reason why the algae can help, and I will say this is conjecture on my part, but I've just been reading so much that it just seems to make so much sense to me. Because the algae has such high iron in it, and because it is so similar to your blood composition anyways, it just makes sense to me that it would help put back some oxygen in your blood, because algae has the iron atom which is necessary for your body to carry oxygen. So that would help restore a little bit of oxygen capability of your blood. That's number one. Number two, the other reason why people are dying from heart attacks is, here's what's so interesting, and this is why the alkalinity piece is so important. It's not just the deprivation of the oxygen from the heart. When you have a virus, it is acidic. And your hemoglobin are little rounds. When they're healthy, they're round and they're circular, and they have a negative charge on the outside. So that negative charge repels one another, so they can safely move down through in your bloodstream, and they can get into your capillaries. That's why they carry oxygen everywhere else, and everything works beautifully. But because the virus is acidic, what it does is it strips the hemoglobin of its negative charge. And now the hemoglobin clumps. So this causes two things. One, it makes it even more difficult for your blood to carry oxygen because it can't, because it's all distorted. And two, it causes blood clots, which can lead to, either a stroke or a heart attack. So the algae, because it's so alkaline, remember that's how I got started with this, because it's so alkaline, and it does this with athletes. It restores the negative charge on the outside of the hemoglobin, so it can help preserve the more natural round shape, which will then help your blood carry the oxygen again and get where it needs to go without clumping. So it's fascinating to me, and I just wish that I was better known and algae was better known, because the first thing I would do for anybody who thinks they've got COVID or has it, knows it, just shovel in the algae, because I've seen what it does for athletes, for people with cancer. The science is there. I'm not a doctor, so I can't claim anything, and I just caution people that I'm trying to educate you with what I know, but I cannot make any firm statements about what it can do. I can't make any claims. I just share the science that I've become aware of, so that other people can read it and make their own determination. And most of it is on our website, but I'll send it to you as well.
Have you seen any positive outcomes with people that have been infected with COVID and have taken the EnergyBits, and you've seen a change? Like, have you seen any had any case studies with that
Oh,
you know
no,
of?
no, we don't have any case studies of our own with COVID-19, but there are
Sure.
lots of case studies, and they're, again, on our website and in the documents I can send you. There's lots of references showing how it increases macrophages, white blood cells, T
Sure.
cells. These are research, and it's not just chlorophyll, it's about spirulina, or it's about chlorella.
Sure.
These are very highly regarded, peer-reviewed, very often double-blind studies,
Sure.
from working sometimes with children, sometimes with elders. It spans every age group, and there's just too much science to deny it.
You know what I think is interesting, in my practice, I give truckloads of chlorella, just truckloads. And I generally do it for detox. But during the time when I think COVID initially hit, when I started seeing cases that looked a whole lot like COVID, I was doing, basically hardcore detox protocols. And I would say that how much my practice was affected was very minimally. And then when they did the lockdown, it kind of changed because people would come off of some of their protocols to do other things that they felt like were more immune boosting. I feel like those folks got hit hard.
Yeah.
So really quite interesting correlation that you found there. So I like that.
Yeah.
What do you, so just switching gears a little bit, you're seeing a lot with beauty. I think a lot of people are interested in beauty and hair health and skin health. And what have you guys seen with that? How have you seen it be effective?
Well, it's a new category called ingestible beauty. Finally, people are realizing that what
Yes.
you put on your skin is nothing compared to what you put in your body, because what you put in your
Amen.
body affects your skin. Your skin is your largest organ, right?
Right.
And I can pick, when people walk by me on the street, I can say, oh, they eat too much dairy, oh, too much sugar. I can tell someone's diet habits from their skin, because it just, so it's very exciting to me that we can finally start educating people. And I'm very grateful to a company called Vital Proteins, who launched collagen. They were really the first company to really get into the mainstream to help people understand that if you consume something that's in the food category, and it's actually, there's a whole new category, it's called functional food, and it includes things like bone broth, collagen, certainly algae, mushrooms. These are things people are realizing, thank God, that what they eat affects everything, including their skin. So when you ask me what I've seen, well, it's still pretty new. That's why I had to redesign the packaging to make it more attractive to the beauty consumer. Because let's face it, the product, algae has been around, first of all, for 4 billion years. It's been appreciated and used in different countries for 2,000 years. It's been endorsed and used daily for 50 years in Asia. But in America, nobody still just doesn't understand what algae is. So part of that is, like, nobody's going to want to read all the science like I do. I'm a bit of a geek. So my job is to try to make it as easy and simple and compelling as possible, so people feel comforted. And like this, we sell them in single servings. I don't know if I showed you. So these are so we can, and this is what most practitioners actually sell in their office. These are $4 each. So like that looks pretty normal, right? That's a grab and go item, and so doesn't look weird at all. It looks like a beautiful, hopefully beautiful packaging. So we started working in the spa community just about a year ago. We went to some of the conferences and a couple of beauty shows. And then, of course, since COVID, everything's been locked down, shut down. And I don't see the beauty spa market opening up in a big way until next year. I think people are going to be very cautious about interpersonal, close encounters of any kind. So, I don't really have an answer for you, because I don't have much to tell you about our own personal experience, but I can tell you, and anybody who knows, again, anything about your body, your blood brings nutrients to different layers of your cells. So here's one example. So you have, and collagen is a part of your skin structure. But if it's not bringing and your skin is mostly protein, same with your hair. Your hair is keratin, and your skin is collagen. If your blood isn't bringing the nutrients that your skin and hair need, it can't, when it replicates, because it replicates itself about every 25 days, I think it is, then it's not going to replicate well. You need antioxidants to pull the free radicals away. You need the protein to build the collagen. You need essential fatty acids to reduce the inflammation. You need the alkaline nature of algae to help reduce the acidity that leads to breakouts. And here's a really cool thing, particularly about chlorella. Remember I mentioned that K2 pulls calcium out of soft tissue? Well, one of those soft tissue areas is your skin. So what they found is that calcium, too much calcium in your skin, attacks your elastin. So your elastin, think of elastin as the scaffolding or the structure that keeps a building up. Collagen fills in the holes, and the elastin is the structure. And you don't get new elastin. You get whatever you get when you're born. Collagen's constantly being built, but your elastin, whatever you're born with, that's what you get. So the calcium, excess calcium, has been damaging the elastin, which causes it to collapse, which causes wrinkles, because now the structure isn't there. It's not as stable. It's not as strong, and that leads to wrinkles. So if you're, I'm in my 60s and in mid 60s, by the way, and people are constantly commenting on how beautiful my skin is.
I would agree. Yeah.
And I attribute it to the algae, particularly the chlorella, because I have about 100 of these. I love this stuff. The chlorella tastes like a sunflower seed or a soy nut, and when you eat it with sea salt and almonds, or sea salt and macadamia nuts, I swear to God, this is my favorite food in the world. So I chow down on this all day long. So I'm a big user of it. But I look younger than my younger sister, who is 6 years younger than me. She's the one that started me on this, and with her breast cancer. I look younger than her, and she gets so annoyed with me. And it's like, well, all you have to do is start taking the algae, because it won't happen overnight. But I have no makeup on. I use one little cream. For a while, I wasn't using anything because I couldn't afford anything. But I just always take the algae every day. So I know it builds the skin because of the protein, the antioxidants. It clears it. The chlorella pulls out the excess calcium. And it just, because it's so building for your immune system, when your immune system and your cells have what they need, everything works better, everything. Mm-hmm. I say I'm like the original Benjamin Button. I look younger now than I did when I started this. So
Really? Is that right?
Yeah. So
yeah, because your skin is fantastic. It really is.
And as I say, I don't put anything on it. There's not, it's just bare. And it's weird. Like it freaked me out at first, because I'm thinking, I'm looking younger these days. You think you're gonna get older, look older, but I look younger now, and it's like, okay, I'm going with it.
This is a good problem to have. It's
a very good. I've had to find new friends, because all my old friends don't want to go. Also, I'm so energetic, passionate. Like usually you're energetic and passionate when you're in your 30s, and so I've had to find new friends, because all people my age are retiring, or they're just not. They don't have the energy. They don't have the interest. So.
You're like, I've got to do something. We've got to get going with this. That's awesome. Yeah, your skin really does look great, and your hair looks great too. Hair is full. It's
no extensions. This is all me.
All natural. That's really great.
My hairdresser, well, I haven't seen him in 3 months, like nobody, but he can't believe it either. He says, you're the oldest person I know with the longest, healthiest hair without hair extensions. It's like, well, it's nothing, no more miraculous than putting the right food in my body. I also, to be honest, don't eat sugar, and which is very, very aging because it's very very inflammatory. And I don't eat gluten anymore. So I eat a very healthy
Your
diet.
diet's pretty darn clean. Yeah.
But in fact, my diet is so clean that if I do cheat every once in a while, and I suffer for like
If
3
you cheat,
days.
yeah.
Bad digestion, breakouts. So I'm, it is what.
It's healthy living.
I can still drink the occasional glass of wine.
Really? Yeah. I mean,
and I have the chlorella, so I don't drink any wine unless I take this afterwards.
Well, so the other part that I think is so critical that you mentioned, especially with the chlorella, is the removal of toxins. Do you want to just get into that just a smidge to talk about in the removal of toxins? Because I think it's often overlooked commonly, and so many people, I mean, we're exposed to 80,000 chemicals every single day. And then on top of that, do you live in a moldy house, or what are you putting into your body with food, etc.? So can you go into the toxin piece? Because I think it's huge in practice.
Yeah, it is huge. So some people use activated charcoal for detoxing, but the problem with activated charcoal is what it does is it pulls out all minerals, not just the bad stuff. So you can run into a problem where you're losing important minerals like magnesium and potassium. So I wouldn't recommend activated charcoal for detox purposes. There's a gentleman by the name of Dr. Klinghardt, I believe. And he's a big proponent of chlorella, and I haven't tried it myself, but apparently if you mix it with trying to think of it's an herb. I'm just suddenly blanked on it. It activates it even more. So what it does is I call chlorella, well, first of all, I call it intelligent food. I call spirulina efficient nutrition because it has so much protein and so many nutrients. In fact, I'll just segue just briefly. Either one of them. We did that. Remember I mentioned that quote about NASA saying 1 gram of algae has 1,000 grams nutrition of 1,000 grams of fruits and vegetables. So 1 bag of our algae tablets with 1,000 tablets has the nutrition equal to 551 pounds of fruits and vegetables. 1 bag equal to 551 pounds. So that's like 30 grocery carts of food that you didn't have to buy, cook, clean up afterwards, blah, blah, blah. So I say, especially spirulina, efficient nutrition. Chlorella, I say is intelligent food for 2 reasons. You have to be intelligent to take it, number 1. Number 2, it knows what to do in your body. Both of them are adaptogens, but chlorella is particularly unique. It can identify toxins in your body. I don't know how it does it. It even if you have mold, because mold releases, I think it's exotoxins,
mycotoxins.
There's also mycotoxins. And by the way, I'm the only company that I know that does a test. We found a lab to test for mycotoxins, like BPA, and there's none in our algae because it's grown carefully. But anyways. It can identify these toxins, whether it's radiation, lead, mercury. It seems to identify lactic acid as a toxin as well, and that's why it pulls it out. And so you also don't get DOMS, which is delayed onset muscle syndrome, I think it's what it's called.
Soreness, yeah.
Soreness, yeah. And for alcohol, when your body consumes alcohol, it converts it to certain other toxins, and I have a paper I can send you about that. And so it's not technically pulling out the alcohol, it's pulling out the toxins that are a result of the alcohol. And it's that hard cell wall that attaches to the toxins. And I have not yet, and when we're bigger and we have a larger research budget or a research budget period, I would love to do some testing on this and get some research that helps explain this, because we're seriously, algae, we're still on the frontier when it comes to algae. Algae is going to be as big or bigger than CBD oil. CBD was under the radar for lots of years, lots of research, and then it got approved in the Farm Bill in 2018, and then everything exploded. Well, algae was included in the 2019 Farm Bill because even the legislators have realized it's the most nutrient-dense food in the world, and 99% of it, and it's the most eco-friendly, sustainable crop in the world, and 99% of it is grown in Asia. So even the legislators know we need to start growing it in America. So they created what's called the Algae Agricultural Act and put it in the 2019 Farm Bill to encourage farmers in America to apply for grants, to grow algae. Believe me, I want to.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So algae, there's so much yet to be discovered about algae, like even that phycocyanin, that blue pigment. You know, just another sort of interesting segue. The M&M company, they knew that they had to start pulling toxins and their fake colored dyes out of their food. So they discovered that the phycocyanin, which is a glorious blue, it's like a G and C. That's how I package these, because spirulina is a blue-green algae, so I package it in blue, and chlorella is a green algae, so I package it in green. Anyways, if you took our spirulina and put it in a plate, that's the color that comes out of it. That's phycocyanin. So the M&M company, they now grow spirulina just for the blue dye. So if you eat any M&Ms now in America, and you have blue M&Ms, you're eating some spirulina.
That's really cool.
Crazy. So I wish I had more science that I could share with you about what exactly is happening when it attaches to the toxins, but I don't. But I will tell you that if you truly want to do the detox, you do need the full 30 tablets per pouch to do that. Because if you don't take enough chlorella, and you can certainly take 4 or 5 small tablets if you just want a small boost to your health on a daily basis. And we created some dosage charts, which I'm happy to send to you. So it might put 4 or 5 tablets might start a little bit of pulling the toxins out, but it's not enough to keep them pulled out and removed through your bloodstream, because it could take, as I said, it takes about an hour and a half to get them out of your bloodstream. If you want to clean your blood. So if you just want chlorella for wellness, 4 or 5 is good. But if you want the detox, you're going to have to do the full 30, because you don't want to pull the toxins out and then have them hanging around in your bloodstream, because there's not enough to get them chelated all the way out. And by the way, your body eliminates toxins through your breath, through your sweating, through your urine, through your other elimination. So it comes through lots of different ways. That's why a lot of people, when they do keto, they have keto breath, because they're burning ketones, which is a very efficient way to have energy, but it changes the whole dynamic of your fueling your body. So and while we're talking about chlorella, that, because it has that hard cell wall that's so hard, it actually has to be cracked to production. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because, and so in America, the FDA has regulated you cannot sell chlorella unless it has cracked cell wall. In Europe, you can buy it without the cracked cell wall, but I don't know why you would want it, because your body can't absorb any of the nutrients in it unless it's been cracked at production. And the reason why I want to mention this is because the original company who started growing chlorella, and this was back in the 50s, and it was in Japan, their name is Sun Chlorella. And I'm very grateful to them, because they spent 10 years to figure out how to grow chlorella, because it was a very complicated, nobody had ever done it for mass consumption. They nailed it, they figured it out, it took them 10 years. And they found out that you had to crack the chlorella to get the nutrients inside that hard cell wall. So they patented a technique to crack the chlorella, and they call it dynomill, which means what they do is they tumble the chlorella with glass beads. But what happens is the glass heats up and lead from the glass leaks into the chlorella. Now they denied this happened, forever. And then the state of California tested it and found out that they had very high amounts of lead in their chlorella.
Wow.
And they said, So they said, you can either stop selling here or put a warning on your packaging that they have a substance known to cause birth defects and brain disorders. So that's what they did. They put a warning. I have a box of their chlorella. It has the warning. This substance has been known to cause birth defects and brain disorders. And I found that out when I was starting my company, because it's not just sun chlorella. 99% of the chlorella industry uses their technique. So everybody who's selling chlorella has lead in the chlorella. And here you're taking chlorella to pull out toxins and you're introducing one, which makes no sense to me. So when I started and I learned about this, I thought, well, that's not going to work for me. There's got to be another way to crack this stuff. And there was a brand new technique. And it's more expensive, but that's the one that we use. And so what we do to crack our chlorella is we pass it through a sound chamber. And it's the vibrations.
Oh, very cool.
That crack the chlorella. So there's no heat, no lead. The analogy is, how like an opera singer can, crack a glass. Yeah. So somebody told me once, oh, your chlorella's got good vibrations.
That's cute. That is so cute.
I'm very proud. And that's one of the reasons why the Mercury Poisoning Association wants to work with us. This is why biological dentists work with us, because everybody knows that chlorella pulls out mercury and toxins, but everybody else had lead in their chlorella. And we do third-party lab tests to prove that it's not in ours. Awesome. So I'm very proud of the lengths that we've gone to ensure safety, because you have to remember, I didn't start this company to build a company. I
just to get the word out.
I just wanted to help my sister. And then after helping her, I thought, well, I can help a few more people. And, I started teaching, and then I got to algae, and then I got, more algae. And then before I knew it, I was an algae expert and I had a company.
That's awesome.
So it informs all your decisions when you're building something to make a difference in the world. It's different than when you're building something just to make profit. And I haven't actually paid myself in 10 years. So this is a labor of love. And,
that's really cool.
Yeah, I'm very, very proud of my team and what we do, and everything's done with, love and I'm also a Reiki healer, and I don't really practice, but I think our algae has good vibrations because there's
well, that's what you've heard. That's what you've heard.
I used to bless every bag when I first started before I chipped it out. Now it's just, spiritually it's blessed.
So where can our listeners get a hold of the EnergyBits if they want to? Because I know that you're doing a special offer for them.
Yes. So our website is EnergyBits.com. It's energy, ENERGY, B for boy, ITS.com. And we have a 20% discount code. So when you buy, it works on everything in any quantity. When you're in the shopping cart, you'll see a coupon box. And in the coupon box, just type Fearless Health, all one word, and you'll get 20% off. And it works every time on everything. Now, if you're not, and we do sell them in large bags of 1,000 tablets. But again, remember, it's very efficient nutrition. And even if you just start with 5 a day, if you did 5 a day, a bag would last you, 3 months. If you took the 30, it would last you a month. But it's also a replacement for snacks, multivitamins, lots of your minerals, sports fuel. So it replaces a lot of things. So seriously, the nutrition density is just uncomparable. But EnergyBits.com is where you find it. We also do sell single servings where there's only like 30 tablets. If you just want to try it out, you don't want to spend the full, because a bag is 120, but with your discount code, it brings it to 96. You can go online to Amazon and you can buy a couple of single servings. They're $4 each. So I encourage people, if they want to just try it out first, be sure that they like it. Remember, EnergyBits is really chewy because of the protein, so a lot of people swallow it. The chlorella tastes really great with sea salt or almonds, but you can swallow it too, put it in smoothies. So you might want to chew the chlorella with some nuts and maybe swallow the spirulina. But after you've tried them in small quantity, then come back because you'll get the 20% discount on our website. So
are you guys the only company selling on Amazon,
yes,
or okay, good. Okay, I
yes.
just want to
And
make sure, because
we,
sometimes that gets a little dicey and things come out of China.
yeah,
Okay, got
no,
it.
we do have a company that runs our website, our Amazon site. They're called White Box, but it is us.
Okay.
No, I don't allow anybody else to sell our products. We've been contacted by hundreds of people, and because I'm not interested in the profit side, I want the right message being delivered
Associated, yeah.
with integrity. We're all about integrity. So yeah, no, it's just us. That's it. Nobody else. Yeah, so EnergyBits, and then we're very active on social. So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We run lots of giveaways and contests, and our handle is EnergyBits at EnergyBits. We also have a handle for BeautyBits if you want to check that one out.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
we love what we do. We feel like we're almost like an adoption agency. Every time we sell a bag, it's like, oh, good, it's going to a good home. We're going to help somebody. and by the way, if your pets love this stuff, and they're so smart, they know what's good for them. So just be aware that if you give it to them, they're going to want more. So.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
Sharing your
you.
knowledge, sharing your wisdom, having the passion for this. I think it's a great message. Chlorella is an incredible food. Spirulina is an incredible food. So thank you so much for being here and just having best practices with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you. And thank you for what you do. We're all working together.
We are all working together.
All right.